Welcome to today's explainer. If you've ever had a manager with a slightly bigger title quietly scoop up credit for your hard work, well, you are absolutely going to appreciate this one. Today, we're diving into a genuinely brilliant corporate detective story. We're going to look at how a single, standard external email completely unraveled a highly polished workplace cover-up. It's a fascinating look at how external reality can shatter internal office politics. So let's just jump right into how this whole thing started. The cover-up kicks off with a seemingly harmless piece of feedback. A client sent an email praising a pitch specifically made by an employee named Sofia. But Monica Graves, the client director, smoothly steps in with this response. The client was thanking the team. It shouldn't be overinterpreted. Now, you might be thinking, that sounds okay, right? It's calm, it's polite, but this is actually a textbook example of using corporate speak to gaslight an employee. It doesn't sound like theft at all. It just sounds like a manager trying to be a team player and maintain harmony. But as you'll see, that polite dismissal is exactly how credit quietly gets stolen. And here is the undeniable gap between the truth and the lie. On one hand, you have the external validation, the client's actual email, which explicitly details Sofia's exact original pitch. The client's memory is crystal clear about who did the work. But then you look at the internal credit report, and suddenly it lists Monica Graves and the team as the owners. The contrast is literally stark. It shows us exactly what the external client remembered versus what the internal system was trying to quietly erase. Which brings us to an absolutely crucial point. The dangerous documents never look dangerous at first. In a toxic office environment, the most critical pieces of evidence aren't, dramatic confessions hidden in a safe. They are hiding in plain sight. They are small, boring administrative objects like a standard internal report or a routine calendar invite that senior leadership just assumes nobody will ever bother to inspect. They're entirely banking on the fact that you'll just accept the polished surface and move on with your day. We actually have a term for this specific tactic. It's called corporate erasure. You see, when management steals credit from quiet builders like Sofia, they aren't wearing ski masks. They're hiding behind corporate buzzwords. They will tell you they're just ensuring alignment, or adding a little polish, or providing necessary leadership presence. They reframe the theft as a necessary, standard business process. And honestly, it's a wildly effective way to make the victim feel like they are the one who's just misunderstanding the situation.
Let's look exactly at how Monica deployed this tactic to push back when she was questioned. Notice that she didn't raise her voice. Instead, she emphasized the context and the overall team outcome. She highlighted how important leadership visibility is for the project. But then she crossed right into intimidation. She subtly warned Sofia not to be difficult and casually suggested that truly mature employees simply don't fight for personal recognition. She brilliantly and kind of ruthlessly disguised a threat to Sofia's career as friendly mentoring advice designed to keep her silent.
But here is where the dynamic flips. Sofia refuses to play along with this emotional manipulation. Instead of getting defensive or upset, she completely pivots. She adopts a fiercely logical mindset and asks the exact structural questions that old-school corporate cultures find incredibly inconvenient. She asks, what changed? Who changed it? And who gained power when it changed? She entirely bypasses the emotional mood of the room and goes straight for the underlying mechanics of the lie. And this is where the detective work gets so good. An executive assistant named Nina decides to pull on these background threads, intensely focusing on the external evidence and the client's memory. Look at this undeniable timeline she uncovers. Week 1, the original meeting invite addressed solely to Sofia. Week 2, the client's earlier notes sent directly to Sofia. Week 3, the client's follow-up questions, again addressed directly to Sofia. Nina proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that this wasn't just a one-off typo by the client. She creates a time-stamped timeline showing Sofia owned every inch of this project from day one. Nina sums up her entire investigation with this fantastic insight. People forget that background work still has foreground records. It's so true, right? People who steal credit often treat administrative tasks, booking rooms, sending calendar invites, saving drafts, as invisible grunt work. But they always fail to realize that this invisible work leaves a permanent, unchangeable digital footprint. Which brings us over to the IT perspective, championed by a specialist named Jordan. Jordan's philosophy is just beautifully simple. Truth is not suspicion, truth is sequence.
You don't need to have a shouting match in a conference room. You don't need to argue about everyone's feelings. You literally just need to project the raw system export up on the screen and let the sequence of events do all the heavy lifting.
So to put this into practice, Jordan teams up with Maya, the strategy lead, and they build what they call a metadata proof map. They map out the exact digital object that was modified. They list the original owner right next to the new owner. They pull the precise timestamp of the change. Crucially, they highlight the missing approval for that modification. And finally, they explicitly identify the beneficiary of the edit. This methodical step-by-step approach completely removes the air from Monica's polished, harmless excuse. It turns a messy suspicion into cold, hard data. And then, an analyst named Aisha drops a question that physically shrinks the room. She asks, who benefits if this stays classified as a harmless mistake? Boom. It's a brilliant tactical move. By asking this out loud, she forces the entire room to stop pretending that the stolen credit was just some innocent, abstract oversight. It forces everyone to look around and acknowledge that actually, there is a specific winner and a specific loser in this scenario. When you actually lay the raw system actions side by side with the corporate excuses and the real beneficiaries, the whole harmless mistake narrative just collapses entirely. The owner field was changed. Oh, the excuse was consolidation, but the beneficiary was Monica. An altered timestamp, excused as a routine process update, but again, Monica benefits. Sofia's name conveniently omitted, chalked up to focusing on a team outcome, but Monica is the one walking away with all the credit. The pattern of design here is absolutely undeniable. Faced with this mountain of evidence, management's immediate instinct is to offer a quiet, private apology and just fix the records silently behind closed doors. But Maya refuses to let that happen. She states, do not quietly fix what can publicly teach. A silent patch only protects the managers who tried to get away with the theft in the first place, and it leaves future employees exposed to the exact same trap. If the theft was public enough to impact Sofia's career trajectory, then the correction must be public enough to fully restore it. So Maya steps up and engineers a brilliant systemic fix, essentially turning a personal grievance into mandatory institutional protection. First, she mandates client origin records checks. Second, she implements rigorous campaign closeout reviews. And third, she aligns all bonus and credit workflows directly to the original creator logs. She doesn't just punish the bad actor here. She changes the fundamental architecture of the workflow, so this specific type of theft becomes practically impossible to attempt ever again. Elise Warren, an independent board member, summarized the whole ordeal perfectly when she said, "A system that cannot show who built the work is not a fair system." I really want you to connect this back to your own workplace. True institutional fairness does not rely on executive theater or empty corporate promises of a great team culture. It relies on undeniable, unchangeable paper trails. Which brings us to the absolute biggest takeaway for you, the viewer. Your best defense against office politics is your own paper trail. Do not rely solely on the goodwill of your managers. Meticulously document your work. Save those early drafts. Keep those meeting invites, those client follow-ups, everything. Maintaining your own background records isn't being paranoid. It is quite literally essential for your professional survival. Let's wrap up today with this incredibly powerful thought. When the office forgets who helped the client, sometimes the client remembers for everyone. It's such a great reminder that external reality and meticulous documentation will always, always outlive a corporate lie. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. If your company's internal system was completely wiped tomorrow, would the external records of your work be strong enough to prove your value? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember, keep building those paper trails.